Raise your hand if you've seen the Seven Mortal Sins anime. Not the wholesome, family-friendly one with Meliodas and Elizabeth. Okay, you know what? That's not really all that wholesome either. But what I'm talking about is the slightly more suggestive one. Because honestly, I actually haven't. Legit, this seems like the exact type of anime that I'd watch, but it somehow flew under the radar. And after playing this, Mrs. Stix might find me locked in my bathroom at night with a tissue in hand. Because, you know, the roller coaster of emotions that I'll no doubt be feeling, obviously. As a man, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, but I cannot let her see me cry. So, locking myself in the bathroom is a way of retaining my masculinity, I guess. What else would I be in there with tissues for? Hey, my name is Stix and welcome back to another episode of Worst Gacha Ever. The purpose of the Worst Gacha Ever series is not to solely criticize a game, nor is it to praise it unconditionally. Rather, this video series exists as a means with which to both critique and to complement various facets of a gacha game that I experienced over a set period of time. Sometimes days, sometimes months. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification because YouTube told me if you don't, well, when you go to hell, and you most definitely will, you depraved degenerate, Lucifer and her demons will not look anything like these waifus. Oh, and make sure to check out the last episode in this series at the end of the video. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends. Seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO, gacha, and gaming news, take a second here to follow Mrs. Stix and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. The Seven Mortal Sins X-TASY, with an S, is an auto-combat, mission-based anime RPG that released earlier this year in 2022. Upon booting up the game, you're presented with an introduction to the game in the form of a drawn cutscene, after which we find the main character, Lucifer is a freaking babe in this game. Look at those horns. Don't they make you just want to touch them? Like, I mean, you know, I'm sure she'd object, probably quite aggressively too, with an express trip straight to the deepest, darkest depths of hell. But I mean, it'd probably be worth the eternal damnation. Then we meet her sister, Lucifer's sister. Okay, you know what? I'm down. I'm gonna be honest though. Absolutely nobody would wear these outfits out in public in real life. Maybe at home around their boyfriend, but not in front of other people. Clearly, these artists have never seen real women outside. But at the same time, can we take a moment here to appreciate their imagination? After a little exposition, we tickle Jacqueline. Why? Because, you know what? There's almost nothing holding that whole thing together. So why else? And then we finally see ourselves engaging in our first battle. It walks us through each feature. You have abilities, there's this rock, paper, scissors, elemental affinity system, strength beats technique, which beats agility, and that subsequently beats strength. It's a pretty simple system. Thankfully, there's also an auto combat feature, so you're never really forced to memorize it. Well, that was quite the attack animation, and as is evident, there are plenty of animations that are just like that. Every character's special ability looks absolutely stunning. Every character has their own unique set of abilities, their own strengths, and their own weaknesses. So, taking the time to slowly build up your ultimate harem is important. Having too many of a single affinity will likely be your downfall. Unless they look like Belial. I am at a complete and absolute loss for words as to describe what I'm seeing right now. and to how to even continue this video. This character has absolutely destroyed me mentally. Was she in the anime? Because, you know what, I'm gonna have to Google this for for research purposes, because my videos are highly researched after all. Okay. 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 So after Googling a little bit, I learned that there is also an uncensored version of not only the anime, but also the game, with full... Let's say it's probably very unsafe to play this game or watch this anime around other people, especially your significant other, unless they're a fan of lewd demons showing off their goods, in which case, you lucky bastard. After the intro to the game, we're taken to summon our first set of waifus. I've always been happy with the waifus that I've gotten upon first pulling in gacha games, but it made it so easy to re-pull for more, so I pulled, and I pulled and pulled. I don't think I've ever pulled that often nor that vigorously in my life, and finally, after what seemed like an eternity of pulling, like literally my arm was so hard from how much I pulled, I was happy because I got these two waifus. Now, the Seven Mortal Sins X-TASY is a very basic gacha game. There are a lot of menu options, and admittedly, I just want to take a moment here to state that the entire menu UI is absolutely horrible. I get that they were going for something unique, but this is a clusterfuck that left me wanting to immediately close the game every time that I loaded it up. The colors, the massive icons and fonts, everything about the UI is atrocious. I don't think that I've ever critiqued a gacha game's UI in the 20 or so episodes that I have been doing of this series, but this is just horrid. Apart from the UI and the hundreds of menus that you'll be forced to cycle through repetitiously, there's quite a bit to do. I was given a substantial amount of stamina and XP potions that allowed for me to not only grind endlessly, but also level up my waifus without limitation. Training them allows for you to increase their base level, but you can also raise their rank, transcend them, and level their skills. In the week that I played, I wasn't really required to do anything other than train my waifus, and I know this comes off a little suggestive here, training them? But, you know, it wasn't my choice to phrase it this way. It is worth noting, though, that every character that you can recruit in-game, at least thus far, has been female. Like this. My god, what do they feed these women? Those are unnatural. They could literally cushion your fall from a 20-story drop. I know female exclusive gacha games are not for everyone. There are plenty of you out there that enjoy husbandos more than waifus, but for those of us that realistically only roll for waifus, this is a paradise. The bulk of the game consists of a series of chapters, each with their own selection of missions. Each mission has a little scene play before it that slowly progresses the story and has you take part in battles that involve eliminating several waves of enemies. After you complete enough missions, you'll encounter a boss fight. And that's it. You'll continue clearing missions and you'll gain access to new chapters and new difficulties, which admittedly I could not overcome, despite leveling my waifus with every resource that I had. I opted to try the introductory level. This is the first level available to play upon starting the game, and I attempted to try this on hard mode, because I thought, how hard can this be? And admittedly, I could barely dent the enemies. I felt like a failure. I wanted to stop playing. This is why I play in the bathroom after all. I wanted to grab a tub of chocolate fudge ice cream and just cry away my problems. But my waifus, they gave me the reinforcement that I needed to go on. Looking at them, I couldn't give up. I wouldn't give up. Well, okay, I did give up on the fight, not, you know, entirely, but with regards to playing. So I opted to continue the story, continue leveling, and I swore I'd be back. Ultimately, I never came back, but if I did go back, I totally would have kicked their asses. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you all, some of the monster models I see in-game leave me very, very concerned. Like, what kind of messed up human being designs these things? They're demonic sumo wrestler Buddhas. Legitimately the stuff of nightmares. One thing I did find that I really enjoyed about this game was how often I could pull for new waifus. Daily and every day, I'd get new waifus that made me question whether or not I should have been leveling and upgrading the waifus that I had been all this time. Like, I enjoy cowgirls as much as the next guy, but my god, these artists must be the most depraved men in the history of gaming. The narrative for the game isn't bad. The story seems a little convoluted, but you're given a lot of response options that have a direct effect on your relationship with your waifus. This adds additional layers to the game and provides unique opportunities to increase your bond with them, and is also something that I really don't see done very often in gacha games. Also, Taboo Hospital, really? Clearly someone's been watching a lot of Night Shift Nurses. The cultured anime, not, nurses that also happen to be working night shift. Ultimately, the Seven Mortal Sins X-TASY, with an S, is a pretty decent game. It has a horrible UI, although what constitutes good or bad is entirely subjective. There's a lot to do, there's a lot to participate in, there's a lot to consume. Combat is pretty basic, but has a lot of incredible looking animations. Waifus are absolute goddesses, like the very definition of the word, with some of the largest plot devices that I've found in a gacha game to date. My only issue is that you probably can't tell your friends or your family that you played this, because they would spit on you and disown you. Now, if you're looking for the previous episode in the Worst Gacha Ever series, you can find that via this video right here. Or if you're looking for a list of the most populated gacha games right now, then this video right here is what you're after.